So why?
I'm not sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight anymore.
Oh, okay. I retweeted this one. I wanted to make sure it was right.
Yeah. Today. Hope they weren't live.
Yeah, thank God. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA strategy show presented by No House Advantage. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, joined by Josh Engleman at Josh Engleman, ready to break down yet another 3-game slate, closing out the work week. Let me tell you something, dude. The last 2 days is 92 degrees here, 88 degrees here. Tomorrow, 53 degrees, 50 degrees on Memorial Day week. Well, Memorial Day Sunday, which is when everyone celebrates as well. At least us in the DFS world, we don't get the time to take off on Monday. Like holidays, work days around this business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I tried. Somebody was like, "Oh, you're doing shows Monday?" I was like, "Yeah, sports don't stop, unfortunately. We do shows on Christmas. I need those days in the middle of July for like MLB All-Star break where sports don't exist. Exactly. That's when I get to take a vacation." By the way, it's supposed to be 76 for us, up to 80 this weekend.
Nice.
So I'm going to live it up.
I've been lucky, though. We've had good weather. I had sod put in out front, and it's like I had people come by and they go, "How is that grass so green?" I said, "Yeah, I just got the green thumb. You know, I'm not even telling them it's sod anymore at this point. This guy can grow grass."
Just bought it. Oh, man. This guy can't grow grass, but I've tried.
Have you?
Yeah.
What kind?
We're not talking about
tall fescue,
Afghan,
Kentucky,
Afghan
or India.
Kush.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's where I was going with it, too. I actually did grow it once successly. In the basement of my mom's house. And
I tried to build myself a grow box. It failed. So I'm curious to hear your story.
So I was like 17 years old, right? And I'd gotten these seeds. And I said, let me give it a whirl, right? We got to harvest this on 420. Of course, you have to dry it and all of that nonsense, but we took the shortcut. Anyway, I go out, I buy like 50 strawberry air fresheners from the local gas station because it stunk, man. Like absolutely stunk. In a great way, but it stunk. So, and I don't even smoke anymore, but this is back when this was a fun hobby of mine. You could call it a hobby. So yeah, it worked. Like it actually worked. I had those inside sun lamps. There's a name for those type of, I don't even remember anymore, but the grow lamps inside. There's a name for it. I can't remember what it is. I guarantee someone in chat will tell me exactly what it is. It's been too long. It's been like almost 20 years. So, but it worked, dude. We harvested it, we smoked it, and very, very, very not potent. So it looked. But let me tell you something. If you looked at it, you'd be like, "That's fire right there." And you smoke it, and you're like, "Okay, well, yeah, you're gonna need a good half ounce of that to get where you need to go." But it was fun. It was a good experience, and like it technically worked. So I was proud of myself.
Yeah, mine failed. It got out of the ground, but I couldn't keep the temperature low enough. I had it in the garage, grow box. But between how hot it gets in my garage in the summer in Wilmington and just the lights from the grow box, it wasn't allowing it to grow any further. By the way, shout out to Street Preacher, who rallied over and over again about the lack of how much people should have Robert Covington. Robert Covington was in the optimal last night. So congratulations to Street Preacher once again.
I do like Street Preacher, though. I like that guy. But yeah, I did notice that, my God, the amount of Robert Covington hate on the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock was unlike anything I've ever seen before. Yeah, it was just
it's so frustrating.
It was unparalleled. So but you get these games, and then you had Goran Dragic starting, right? And a lot of people didn't want to play him off the bench, and then it's like, oh, he's starting, I got to play him. Tell you, man, Miami Heat, they've just given up. Like at this point, they look like they have no interest in playing basketball anymore. It's crazy. The crazy thing, right? I tweeted this yesterday, and I think people assumed that I was insinuating something that I wasn't. I was providing context. So I said that the Bucks were minus 360 to win this series, right? Minus 360 at the opener. Sorry, I'm still a little bit sick here. This is wearing on me. The Heat or the Sixers and the Nets were both minus 1,000 to win. Now, on the surface, you look at it and you're like, all right, Miami's better than the Wizards for sure. And they're probably better than Boston, but that's actually yet to be seen. But Brooklyn's better than Milwaukee, although I think that series is going to be fantastic. So if you were to look at the last two games between Milwaukee and Miami, you'd think this series opened at minus 1,000 up there with the Sixers and the Nets. That's how bad Miami's been, and that's how good the Bucks have been.
How bad is Eric Bledsoe?
Dude. I mean, the fact, and people might be asking what you mean by that. Drew Holiday is an absolute difference maker on this Bucks team. You've been saying it. I've been saying it for a long time, but it does make me wonder, as everyone was, kind of filleting him last night on Twitter. I thought to myself, why is it that Drew Holiday, played on some of those teams with the Pelicans that should have, at the bare minimum, Josh, made the playoffs. Bare minimum, they should have made the playoffs. Yet every single season, they found ways to fail. And the answer to that is Drew Holiday is the perfect guy to have on a team when you have a guy like Giannis and you've got a shooter like Chris Middleton. He's not the type of guy you want as your 1A or even your B. That's all I'm saying. He's fantastic, but look at how much different his impact is on a team like the Bucks than it is on the Pels.
It's night and day. Look, there are some guys that are just going to be better deployed with better guys around them. They're ceiling raisers instead of floor raisers. Drew Holiday is a ceiling raiser because he fits on any team you want to put him on, any team in the league. He would immediately slide into whatever role they need and fit seamlessly. He's not a guy that's going to need a lot of very specific guys around him. Put him out there with anything and they're going to be fine. This is what I was expecting this series to look like last year, man. Bubble was weird.
Yeah.
Bubble was very weird.
Was. Someone in chat says they did make the playoffs. Yeah, they did. I think it was 1 year. That was the year they swept the Blazers, right?
Yeah.
But aside from that, like every year they were expected to make the playoffs and every year they didn't. So I don't know. It's been a weird playoff so far. I stayed up to watch that Nuggets game yesterday, and it was Austin Rivers late in the game who was dropping three after three after three. And every time Dame would drain one, every time they'd get Melo open for a baseline three, he'd drain one. Rivers came right back and knocked one down. Like he kept them at arm's length every single possession. It was pretty wild. I have a question for you. Why do you think Nikola Jokic's assist totals have been so low, although he's scoring a ton? Are we at a spot now where, because Denver's up 2-1. I still think they're the better team than Portland. I've been saying that. I was surprised they were 3.5-point dogs yesterday, although I wouldn't be surprised if this series goes to 7, to be fair. Why do you think it is that he's almost completely abandoned that facilitator role recently? He's just doing everything he is. Do you think it's because he has to?
I mean, 28% assist rate yesterday, 29% assist rate in game 2. That's 94th and 95th percentile.
What did he have? 5 and 5 and then 1 in game 1?
I'm not entirely sure. Let me click into it.
I thought he had like 5, 5 and 1, which just, and yesterday he didn't have more than 2 assists until midway through the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And it was
five assists
to Austin Rivers,
5 assists. And then we're talking about, obviously the assist rate is down. Let's think through. One, you're getting a very different defensive scheme, trying to take your best stuff away. You can focus on trying to take the ball out of his hands more than you would in a regular season game. I don't know if assisted baskets in the postseason are down in comparison to the regular season. I don't know if it's more isolation, individual scoring. So that could potentially be an issue. I mean, there's also the other side of the coin. It's a lot easier to get an assisted basket when it's going to Jamal Murray, Will Barton,
my initial thought,
PJ Dozier, instead of Austin Rivers, Marcus Howard, and Shaq Harrison.
Sure. Yeah.
I think all of that sort of just all of those little pieces together probably because it's still high. It's still, it's still solid.
Yeah. It's just like he's averaging 5 fewer potential assists per game than he did in the regular season. Can that change? Sure. But it certainly seems, and one thing I caught on yesterday was, dude, they're really slow to double him, and he just crushes them. Like Carmelo Anthony wanders over to Nikola Jokic when they try to double him, and by that point, Jokic is already at the basket.
The problem is doubling Jokic is like the worst guy in the league to double. So I don't really know what the answer really is.
Yeah, they don't really have one. They don't.
Are
really
his touches per game down?
So I was looking at that as well, right? And mind you, to be clear, right, before I say anything, Nikola Jokic led the league in touches in the regular season. Okay.
Yeah.
With like an absurd amount of touches. I believe he finished over 100 per game. I'll tell you right now. So he averaged 101 touches per game, 4 more than anyone else in the league. In the playoffs, he's averaging 99.7 and is still leading the entire league. Well, every team in the playoffs. So no, touches really aren't down at all. They're almost exactly 99.7. They're almost identical to where they were in the regular season.
That's a per game number?
Per game.
So they're down a lot.
No, they're not.
Well, yeah. Well, he wasn't playing. He's got to be playing more, right?
His touches are actually up because he had gotten that foul trouble played on, or was it the blowout foul trouble? Either one. I forget. 90. He only played 31 minutes. So technically, I'd say his touches are probably exactly where they were. 34 minutes. Yeah, he's played less minutes per game in the playoffs than he has in the regular season. So they're identical. They're identical.
Yeah. Never mind then.
Yeah. So I don't know. It is interesting though. It's funny. I heard one of the broadcasters yesterday, and he's like, "Man, he is the post-up version of Luka Doncic," and I'm like, "You're just saying that because they're both white." And then he keeps going, right? And he's like, they're not the most athletic, they're not the fastest, but they'll kill you here. They'll do this, and I'm like, God damn it, he's right. There's so many similarities between Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic that it's silly. Just in the way that they get buckets, in the way that they produce, and in the way that you kind of look at them and say, they're clearly not close to the most athletic players in the league. Like where would you put them in athletic percentile if you had to? Bottom.
That's where it gets tricky, because someone like Luka is athletic in a different way. His ability to start and stop his body, his ability to change direction. So like he's not a leaper or a straight line speed guy, but he has athleticism in different types of categories.
Sure.
If we're talking like traditional runny, jumpy type stuff, I mean, real close to the bottom.
Right. And Jokic is the same way in that his athleticism isn't flashy, like his ability to move isn't flashy, but he actually has quickness that is deceiving, and it really hurts defenders when you see him post up, face up, whatever it is. He could take off pretty quickly and get to the basket or get those quick passes off. So it actually isn't the worst comparison between the two, because when you're watching both of them, you go, it's actually really amazing that they're as good as they are, And
they are, I mean, they are as good as it gets. Yeah.
I even kind of look at Embiid that way sometimes, because the way that he moves with the ball in his hand, sometimes he looks really awkward, and that happens when you're, 7-foot+ guy, right?
Yeah.
But his acceleration, his burst to the basket is shockingly quick, and it just puts defenders on their asses. So I think a lot of big men are like that.
He looked pretty nimble when he was thrusting into the sky after that foul in Game 3.
That's his
doing
move.
doing the old crotch chops. That was pretty
that's
good.
His move. He's done that.
I was so happy.
He's done that like 10 times this season. Whenever he gets knocked down and gets the N1, he does it every time. It's great.
I love it.
He's a character, man. Anyway, let's dive into this. We got 3 games to talk about. And before we do, first off, hit that thumbs up. We got 211 people. This should keep climbing throughout the show. And if you haven't done so, first thing when you get in here, just hit that thumbs up. You don't have to do it again. Maybe if we get good enough at this, I won't even have to mention it again throughout the show. And subscribe to the channel. We just eclipsed the 55,000 subscriber mark. Well on our way to 500,000, Josh.
Yeah, to the moon, man. You just got to drop that 0.
well on our way, thanks to you. The only
Yeah.
way we're getting there is with you guys. Million mark is not far behind. And if you want to join the channel, hit that join button, get the badges, get the emojis. We got a lot of cool things also coming up down the pike for all of our members. And I think we're going to do like kind of a loyalty thing too. If you've been a member for this amount of time, it's certain things, and as you progress, it gets better. And we got a lot of stuff in the works, but we want to make sure it's right. So we didn't forget about all you that joined and became members on the channel well in advance, right when it started. So, you know, we'll make things happen around this way. And hey, Josh, it is funny because we had somebody in chat say, I've been hitting the under on no house advantage for those Jokic assist props all every time he plays. Yeah, that's great because he's been at like 6.5 assists every single game. And if you haven't checked out No House Advantage, use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, when you sign up. Use the free tools. Please use those free tools. The player prop tool with our projections compared to the props over at No House Advantage, the optimal lineup tool. These were built for No House Advantage. They're entirely free, 24/7, 365 days of the week. It's a peer-to-peer player prop platform that essentially in a tournament format, but instead of putting players in at a salary, you're putting their props in, and you're picking which props to use. The highest ones, the one you feel most confident about, gets the most points. The one you're least confident about at the bottom of your lineup gets the fewest points. Playing against your peers just as you would anywhere else, GPP style, guaranteed payouts, all of that great stuff. Use the promo code Awesemo. Get your $20 when you sign up and deposit. Use the tools. Check it out today. Build your bankroll over there. It's a great way to get started, to build your bankroll. Even if you want to go chase those $100,000 paydays elsewhere, put yourself in a position to where you can sustain that type of play. And one of the great ways to do that is come to one of these smaller sites that just getting their footing underneath them, grabbing a foothold in this industry. No House Advantage is the perfect place to do that. And the tools are totally free. So why not? All right, dude. New York, Atlanta, New York Knicks, 4.5-point dogs to the Atlanta Hawks today. 4.5 points, 211.5 total. I was actually looking at what the live line, not the live line, but the current line on this series is. What do you think it is? If you had to guess, what's the current line on this series?
It's 1-1, right?
1-1. Yep.
Atlanta minus 155.
Ooh, Atlanta minus 150.
Yeah.
Nice. What book were you looking at?
Nothing in front of me.
Atlanta minus 150.
Look, if they're 4-point favorites or whatever today on a 5-game series, like it's kind of just whatever it is here.
7-game series, but yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, not anymore.
Oh, you're saying, gotcha. Okay, you're saying from here on out, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 4.5 points leans Atlanta. We'll start it off with the New York Knicks, though. Julius Randle, man, some tough shooting against this Atlanta team through the first couple of days. It's been rough. And he's finished with 50. This is crazy. I'm sure you saw this, but his stat line was identical in back-to-back games. 15, 12, and 4, 36 minutes in both of those games. That's not going to get it done for his price point.
Now, I got a text from a buddy of mine that was a Knicks fan talking shit about Randle. I want to remember what he said. Julius Randle is playing like a Monstar took all his powers. I was like, yeah, it's not going all that great for Randle. And he doesn't look very good today. He looks downright awful as far as I'm concerned on DraftKings at 9,700. He's like the 6th best guy from the Knicks. We've got a lot to talk about here for New York, and a decent chunk of it is like a giant question mark. Derrick Rose started the second half over Elfrid Payton. I'm going to go ahead and assume that Derrick Rose is now going to be the starter in the first half as well. What are your thoughts there?
You know how I feel about this team when it comes to Tom Thibodeau. Like, I just assume that whatever is practical, whatever makes sense, whatever you would apply logic to, I try my very best to do the opposite of that. Is that sensible? Probably not. But I'm dead serious, Josh, when I say I take no pleasure in saying that Tom Thibodeau makes life impossible for us sometimes, because like Elfrid Payton started last game. Okay.
Yep.
First game he started, he played 4 and 4 minutes in the first and the third quarter, and that was it.
Yep.
So he starts this game. He plays 5 minutes in the first quarter, never returns to the game, never returned.
Yep.
And then Nerlens Noel, who started the first half, finished with
we'll get there.
What's up?
We'll get there to this aspect.
Yeah, just absolute shit show. Then doesn't start the second half, but plays a stint towards the end of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter. So you asked me, what do I don't know. I have no idea. Would it be logical for Derrick Rose to start? Yes, which means you're probably getting like Obi Toppin starting at point guard today.
Oh, God. Either look, here's the deal: 6,500 or 6,400 for Derrick Rose. He's the best play on the Knicks, and he's picking up the most ownership, and he should. So I prefer him if he's starting because I think that he could actually play 40 minutes in that scenario. But otherwise, even at 36 minutes, if you're projecting him off the bench, he's the best guy you can get to from the Knicks. You led into the next problem. Taj Gibson started the second half over Nerlens Noel, but Nerlens Noel did stay in the rotation. So the question is this: who is the starter at center today for the New York Knicks? Nerlens Noel is 4,500 on FanDuel. Taj Gibson is 5K. Nerlens Noel is 4K on FanDuel. Taj is 3,800. If Nerlens Noel starts, I still like Nerlens Noel. If Taj Gibson starts, you got to project Taj Gibson for like 30, 32 minutes. He's going to play monstrous run in this spot then.
Yeah, dude. Taj Gibson might play 36 minutes in this game if he starts. Dead serious. Yeah, there's no... Yeah. Tom Thibodeau likes this guy too. And I'm not usually into all of those externalities when it comes to basketball, but when it comes to Thibodeau, again, you just know that we've watched this for a long time. If he likes players, he runs with those players. He does.
I mean, he's had him on 3 separate teams.
Yep, exactly. And I'll say this much just to back up for a second. I don't care if Rose starts or not. I still love him today. I think anytime Derrick Rose is getting 36 or 38, 39 minutes, like he should be a whole lot more than $6,400. So this is one of those great examples where his price point comes up, right? And he's 65 on FanDuel, where his price point comes up and he's still too cheap. Usually you see these huge rises in price point and people still keep jumping on him because they think there's still meat left on the bone. And there isn't. There is with Derrick Rose. Just no doubt about it.
I hate Derrick Rose, but he's a great play today.
Yeah, exactly. That's all that matters. It really is. Yeah. Has he been great on a per minute basis? No, but 38, 39 minutes with a guy that's going to produce a usage rate close to 30%, even if he's in the starting lineup, I'm on board. And I'm with you with Gibson. Pay attention to with Gibson. What about if Noel, here's the interesting thing. You said you might have to consider Noel again. What if Noel starts and Tibbs does the same damn thing that he does with Elfrid Payton and Derrick Rose, where, you're starting again, but then Taj plays 30 minutes and gets zero ownership because he's off the bench?
Well, I only think, like, if Noel starts, then I think that it only goes poorly if for Noel if he's playing poorly. I think the goal, if Noel starts, is to play Nerlens Noel like he's the starting center. I just have no concept of how that's going to shake out. But if Taj Gibson's going to pull twice as much ownership as Noel on DK, with the assumption that Nerlens Noel starts, and the disparity was that 2 days ago, I'm going to go to Noel over Gibson in GPPs. But if Gibson starts, I mean, he's probably the best play on the slate at 3,800.
Yep. I want to give you something that I found very telling. And two things first. Welcome to the team. Where is it? Joe Sabo. Welcome to Team Awesemo, brother. I just saw you hit that join button. Didn't want to forget about that. It's funny, Josh, because we always go into this show and it's a short slate, like a playoff slate, going, be out of here in 45 minutes. Not a ton to talk about, but I just get wrapped up in it, man. Once you start talking basketball, like once you get into it, once we get this going, once chat gets involved, it's tough to get out.
It's like when I go to the gym, you have to start with like 5 minutes on the bike just to get the blood flowing. I get there. It's just like, shit, everything's creaky. Everything sucks. You get that 5 minutes going, we shoot the shit for a little bit. And all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, now I can do this for 3 more hours. Exactly. Same game over and over again. Doesn't make a difference.
Absolutely. Walking in that door is very much the most difficult part of all of it.
It 100% is. And getting started, having Tyler or having Jordan give us the countdown to get started, like right at that moment, you're like, oh, I just wish it were 11 o'clock. No and doubt. Then at 10:25, I'm like, dude, I'll go till noon.
I've driven to the gym before, pulled up in the parking lot and turned around.
That was college for me.
I've actually smoked a cigarette on the way back to my apartment. I mean, that is just peak asshole right there.
Oh man, that is super American of you.
Oh, don't go there. Don't go there.
Hold on, let me salute that flag above your head. Because if you did that in Russia, you would smoke that cigarette while you worked out.
Right. Of course.
Like a gangster.
Yeah, but I'm not there yet, man. I've actually been working on like getting my stamina back, getting everything back. And, I've been stretching every morning. You ever use those rollers that you put like, those foam rollers?
Yes.
Let me tell you, dude, they make a difference. Put them under the back because we work from home. Your lower back starts to hurt. They work magic.
Katie just bought this jam that, I don't know, you like fold a piece of plastic together and lay down on it. It's got this big like arch of hard plastic with foam down the center that just like lays in the middle. Like instead of it being like the long tube, it's sort of like shaped like your back. You lay on that and it kind of like stretches out everything. Anything I could do for that. I'll probably just go get a massage today. That'll be good.
That's a good idea too. Mine's a little bit deeper than that. Like I've gone to chiropractors. I feel good for a few minutes. And then the next day it's right back to where it was. So.
Oh, you got to come down here to Asian relaxation, my man. You don't need a chiropractor. It is. Really? Yeah. Okay. And I know that what you're thinking makes it sound as if I don't just get a massage when I leave this place.
I wasn't thinking that at all. I'm not over here looking at you like you're Robert Kraft.
Oh, if I could be, I would be. Who wouldn't want to be a millionaire?
To get just straight like happy endings.
Yeah, they beat the living tar out of you while you're getting this massage. I feel like they're climbing up into the rafters and dropping like Macho Man elbows and stuff in the middle of your spine. But you walk out of there and you feel good.
Yeah.
They find if you had a knot in like 1996 in your shoulder blade, they're going to find the remnants of that, like the fossil of it. And they're going to break that bad boy down. It's good stuff.
Okay. No stone unturned, just as we do here on the strategy show.
Yep. That's clearly where I expected to be going today. That's why I could do the show till noon.
You got anything else on the New York Knicks?
So then we get into this other little group of RJ Barrett and Alec Burks and Reggie Bullock and the minutes that these guys are going to get. To me, I'm sort of treating them like they're all the same. Barrett is 6,300 on FanDuel, 6,100 on DraftKings. Doesn't look like all that great of a play, but he's not picking up that much ownership. Burks seems to already be properly owned. Quickly's getting 12% ownership at 3,200 on DraftKings. I don't really know what to make of that. But let's talk a little bit. I think we got to give it at least a split second. Julius Randle's 9,700 on DraftKings. He has the 6th lowest ownership percentage coming out of the Knicks. Is there any scenario this year, like where I would have told you we got to game 3 of the playoffs, Julius Randle is healthy and he's the 6th most owned Knick? What do you think? What would you guess his price was in that scenario? Like 11K?
Yeah, I think he was around 11K. The only logical explanation is that there's Luka, there's Durant, there's Tatum, there's Irving, but honestly, even so, Harden, Durant, and Irving being on the same team should limit their ownership pretty significantly. You would think Randle, even in this case, would be higher owned than that. No doubt about it. Yeah, I think you're right. That's strange.
And by the way, I don't think he should be. Like, I'm pointing it out that it's low, and I would not have expected it. I had him show up in the optimal 8% of the time. It's not. I can't even get him there. Yeah, I do.
You agree with it. All right, let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks then on the other side. Trae Young is $8,600 on DraftKings. I think that's a very, very reasonable price point. Of course, it's not the best matchup, but someone has to score, and it is the postseason. He's $9,000 on FanDuel. The one spot that's just been crazy is Clint Capella, man. I mean, you want to talk about someone zero shot volume. The usage is non-existent, right? And if you want to say, oh, maybe he's making up for it in free throws, like say Anthony Davis did the other night. No, he has 2 free throws in these first 2 games. He's attempted 12 total shots. He has 13 points. He does have 7 blocks. He's a good rebounder, Josh. All of that stuff is great. But my God, Clint Capella, you're getting nothing out of him as an offensive player right now. And that's a little bit concerning.
Yeah, I don't like him today. I think he's going quite a bit over-owned across FanDuel and DK. 8,300 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DraftKings. I have him as one of the more over-owned plays of the day. Greg made a good point about this on Live Before Lock the last time that they played. So I guess this was Wednesday. Because of the slow pace of this game, there's actually less shot attempts. There's going to be less rebounding opportunities for Clint Capella. It's just like naturally a kind of bad series for him in particular. So I'm looking at Capella largely as a fade. You mentioned Trae Young out of the gate. That $8,600 price tag on DraftKings is phenomenal. One of the best options in a GPP as far as I'm concerned. I think he's going quite a bit under-owned. Only 25% ownership. Trae Young coming back for a home playoff game in Atlanta after all the razzing that he's been getting from New York. Like, to me, this is a great spot to get Trae Young. And they've been pretty pessimistic about his minutes so far. I don't know if this is just Nate McMillan trying to make sure that Lou Williams gets out on the floor, but we haven't seen Trae Young out there playing 40 minutes. There's upside in his playing time as well. So I'm loving the idea of getting to Trae Young. After that, I don't really have a ton of interest in much from Atlanta. No legit priorities. $6,600 John Collins on FanDuel, I think, is properly owned at 24%. It's just a testament to the position. I guess DeAndre Hunter for 4K on DraftKings, you got to pay attention to him a little bit. He's already getting 20% ownership. I'm not all that enamored in Gallo. He's picking up more ownership than I would really expect. Kevin Huerter is probably picking up more ownership than I would expect. And I don't really think that you can go to Lou Will or to Tony Snell. So my biggest priority here is Trae Young, but I'm not really looking at a lot from Atlanta.
The funny thing, too, it's not just Trae Young. No one on this team is getting those legitimate starter playoff minutes.
No, it's weird. It's weird.
Did you mention DeAndre Hunter, though? He played 32 minutes off the bench last game. He didn't shoot particularly well, but he got to the line 11 times, Josh. And that was encouraging to me because you know that he was driving to the rack. Those are the type of things you want to see from a guy like that because you don't always see it. Does it make him a phenomenal play? No, but that many minutes in a playoff game to me feels like at his price point, of course, and it's all relative. It all comes down to how much they cost and what they look like in context to the rest of the slate. But I did find it interesting that he got 32 minutes there and, was pretty effective.
Yeah, that's the tricky part here. He got 32 minutes and John Collins played 15.
Yeah. John Collins sucked though. Like he was in foul trouble, of course, but he has not been good.
So, and we saw Gallo get 29.5, and like the relationship between Hunter, Gallo, and Collins is massive from a minutes perspective. I don't get the sense that you could want to have all three of those guys in a lineup. You're probably trying to set a 2 of 3 at max, because I think we're talking about, something in the 75 to 80 total minutes range out of those three guys is where we're going to end up. But I think that I don't want to say that it's random who ends up with those minutes, but I think it's kind of random who ends up with those minutes.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, he only drove to the rim drove 4 times in that game. So makes you wonder if he was getting fouled on threes and just like random jumpers. Usually
he shot 8 free throws in like 25 seconds.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he shot 11 threes. So.
He got fouled, then he got fouled on a 3, and he shot 5 of them, I believe, on 1 possession.
Okay, is that what it was? Okay.
I think so. It's something really ridiculous and stupid in how quickly he shot those free throws. Okay. It was almost immediate.
Usually when you see double-digit free throw attempts, this is someone that's been getting to the rim or at least driving, and in that case, not at all. So a little bit surprising there. Not surprising because that's not the type of player he is, but I think at 4K, there's at least some possibility that if he does get those minutes, he could have a decent enough game. Let's talk about Brooklyn and Boston then, unless you have anything else from the Hawks.
No, and this one, we're going to get screamed at for this one.
Why?
Because I'm very, very heavy again on Boston. They've looked like shit, and I dug into this Brooklyn team, and I don't understand what to do with Brooklyn, but their ownership matches my sim results, so I guess the public is with me, but I don't know. We'll see. Let's talk about Brooklyn. Let's
do it. And if you want to check out the ownership projections, the player projections, all of that wonderful stuff, the boom bust tool, the top stack tool, the optimal lineups, the fantasy cruncher add-on, the lineup builder, all of our premium articles, you name it, everything we've got created, all the tools built and used by the #1 ranked DFS player, Alex Baker himself. You see the Awesemo avatars atop those contests. We'll do the Hall of Fame segment later and show that off for everybody involved that uses that and wants to get their name up there on the screen. you want to check it out, go to awesemo.com/join. Whether it's a weekly express pass for NBA that includes all of our showdown tools as well, ownership, projections, all of that stuff, including other stuff like the lineup builder and the rankings and so many other things. Or you want to do all access annual, monthly, yearly. You want to do a single sport. It doesn't matter. But here's what I can tell you. When you come to Awesemo and you use these tools, you don't need to know every sport to be able to play them. Just ask someone like Adam, who
doesn't know anything.
Right. Great success playing MMA. And when he was having that success, he probably couldn't now, but he probably couldn't name 10 fighters, Same thing with PGA, NASCAR, so many of these sports. Like, we have people that say, I haven't really played it, but I used your tools. I used your ownership, your projections. I used the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. I optimized my lineups, and boom. Like, Josh, I'm not saying you're going to become a millionaire out of the gate or that you're going to take down 100K. What I am saying is that it lessens the learning curve significantly when you're trying to play more than one sport, or even trying to play one sport and you don't have the time to research every single box score, the game flow, the rotations of every single game.
It's not that you just get this license to print money, but you're buying a shortcut to information. You're getting everything that you could possibly want for that particular slate, drilled down into the relevant data that you need, whether that's boom bust tool for something where NBA, where this is how often this guy's going to go off for like a slate winning score. Here's how often he's in the optimal lineup. This is what he's projected for. We're drilling all of that down to at least shorten the amount of time that you need to look at outside data. And to me, that is incredible. You're buying your time back.
For sure. Yeah. And if you're trying to play, I know a lot of people that have Fantasy Cruncher add-on and they'll use it for the quarter arcade, 150 lineups, or even the piggy bank. So there's a million different ways you can use the tools. Go to awesemo.com/join. Like I said, it doesn't matter what subscription you're looking for. We got something, whether you want to make a true investment of it, whether you want to start slow, start small, we got you. Check it out and experience and enjoy all the tools. We do, however, have the main slate ownership projections totally free for NBA today. We have the MLB top pitchers tool free. That's a fantastic tool. And NHL main slate ownership projections. Usually they're behind a paywall. Today, Friday, closing out the work week. All three of those are free. So even if you're not ready to sign up, check them out. They're free today at awesemo.com. You don't have to be a sub. All right, I know you want to talk about Boston, but let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets first. What are we doing with Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving? They're 8-point favorites, 227 total, and they've absolutely smoked Boston in back-to-back games to start this series.
So they're a little bit different on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings. Kyrie at 8,800 on FanDuel is probably the only thing that I actually like from Brooklyn. These guys are not picking up a ton of ownership on DK. They're all in basically the teens. And I think that is either correct or slightly too high. And I know people are going to lose their mind over this. So I've got something that I want to ask you. You've probably looked at this already, but I want to pitch it to you. So I took LeVert, Dinwiddie, Allen, Taurean Prince off the floor for Brooklyn, obviously. And then I took LaMarcus Aldridge off as well. Mm-hmm. That represents basically what's going on for the Nets right now. And I put Kevin Durant on because in a competitive game, I think Kevin Durant's playing about 40 minutes today. Good enough of a proxy as far as I'm concerned. What do you think James Harden's usage rate is playing alongside Kevin Durant?
Just Kevin Durant or Kevin Durant and Irving?
Kevin Durant is the only player listed on the floor. So Kyrie could be.
21%.
19.
So it was 19 with Irving on too, last I looked. So I figured I'd bump it a couple percent.
Kyrie's is 23.5. Durant is 27.7.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. James Harden in this scenario has a monster assist rate while Kyrie Irving's assist rate is negligible.
You would be correct. He does have a monster assist rate.
And Kyrie Irving has a very low assist rate in this. It was like 14% or something crazy.
Very low. Very low.
So it's like it's a trade-off there that you're willing to take you're willing to take that trade-off if Harden goes 20, 10, and 18. But the concern is that he doesn't do that, and a 19% usage rate. Because I know what you were getting at. I think I talked about it the other day as well. It's not good. Like, that's very concerning.
1.22 fantasy points per minute for Harden. This is a FanDuel number, by the way. In that scenario, Kyrie Irving 1.07. I have both of those guys north of those numbers today, but I don't think that they look very good. I just don't understand how anybody could prioritize Brooklyn. Like, we've got Kevin Durant at 9,600 on DraftKings. Is that a good price? Like, these guys are being ultra efficient when they're scoring, but you sort of need this game to, one, stay competitive. And to me, if this game stays competitive, I have a hard time believing that they're playing very well, if that makes any sense. Like, yeah, I'm very dubious of Brooklyn today. I said this the last time, and I'm going to say it again. I think one of these guys probably has a really big game. I think whoever gets cooking gets to continue to cook. But there's just no priority for any one of those three. I have no confidence in selecting any of them.
How could you? You can't right now is the problem. There's no way that you can look at this team between Harden, Durant, and Irving, right? Another thing too, people want to play the matchups game. You can't play the matchups game with three of the four most elite players in the league. It just doesn't work like that. You know, maybe if this was a case where you have an absolute lockdown defender, but even so, you know, it still doesn't work like that. There's so much positionless basketball. Shit doesn't mean anything anymore when you've got three, you know, preeminent players in the league. You just have to take guesses, Josh. And with Harden, you sacrifice usage. With Kyrie, you sacrifice assists. With Kevin Durant, you can essentially sacrifice anything, although he's been the most reliable one of the three of them recently. And I feel like, honestly, if I'm going to any of them, I probably go to KD here, but that would only be because I'm getting a $700 discount on James Harden.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, James Harden's 10-8 on FanDuel. That price isn't even in the ballpark of correct.
No, it's not. And if these two guys were out, James Harden would be $3,000 too cheap. But that's just not how it works. These are just phenomenal players that you're alongside in the postseason. The ball's going to get spread around. And, you know, another risk here, no one wants to hear this, right? The Miami Heat were 1.5 point dogs yesterday. That game, in a must-win game for Miami, was projected to stay very close. They got crushed. Yeah. So with the way Brooklyn has played, they could run away with this game too. So there's too many factors at play here. But I will ask you this. What do we do with the news that Jeff Green is out? So you and I haven't had much injury news to talk about since we started the postseason. Jeff Green had played 27 minutes in that first game, then only 12 minutes in the second game. Who do you see benefiting the most here? And is there anyone that we can take advantage of with his absence?
I don't get the sense, given the way that this series is going, I don't really think anybody's going to benefit all that much. I think maybe you see like 2 more minutes for Blake, maybe 2 or 3 more minutes for Nick Claxton. I think that we just see Tyler Johnson or one of those extra guys, TLC, insert any one of the guys that hadn't been playing. I don't think they just go to an 8-man rotation, particularly in a series where they're massive favorites. They have no reason to like really rev the engine that hard. So I think somebody else just probably picks up, 12 to 14 of those minutes. Bruce Brown picks up maybe 2 additional minutes. I guess I like Bruce Brown at 3,800 on DK, but I don't think that he has to be any sort of priority. I don't get the sense that Jeff Green's going to matter all that much. They could throw minutes at DeAndre Jordan as well. I just don't see it being a scenario. Look, they're 7-point favorites on the road in a series. They're already up 2-0, and they beat the living tar out of Boston both games. I just don't think it matters. They're going to go to somebody.
And it's unfortunate because last game was such a massive blowout that we can't even get a look at what Nash would have done with them. Nope. Blake did play more in the third than he did in the first, but a lot of that is when you've got a game like this, you'll see the coach put his foot, on the gas and just throttle them throughout the third quarter and then just sit everybody for the remaining 12, 14 minutes of the game. So that really doesn't tell me much. I think Blake probably gets an additional, say he's been getting 20 minutes per game, although the last one was a blowout. I
gave him 24.
I was just going to say, I think he gets an additional 4, give him 4 minutes here. Yeah. So
look, they're in a position where they can throw all of those minutes to DeAndre Jordan and not care about the matchup at all. The series is over.
Sure. It's a good point. It is. And Blake Griffin on the Nets this season, what's his per minute production? I mean, it's It's not especially pretty. It's 1.01, so that's not terrible, but he's still playing alongside Irving, Harden, and Durant. So it's not great. All right, talk to me about Boston. You've been champing at the bit for this one.
I don't know what else to say. Like, this game has the biggest total on the slate. Brooklyn's defense is terrible, or at least in theory, it's terrible. The problem is it seems like Boston's offense might be also as terrible as Brooklyn's defense. I have Marcus Smart, Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Robert Williams, and Evan Fournier all massively under-owned. They're my favorite team on the slate. They have been for the first 2 games. That has not gone well at all. It's been a terrible, terrible series to roster anybody from Boston. But I'm going to be rostering heavy amounts of the Boston Celtics for today. I'm hoping that they could snap out of it at least in a home game. I'm hoping that they could actually find their shot. If this game stays competitive, I think you need multiple pieces from Boston, because I think if it's competitive, the final score is 130 to 120 or something along those lines. If the game stays close, this game has to put up a ton of fantasy points. And at that point, you're going to need a lot of properly or low priced Boston guys. I mean, I've got Marcus Smart in 55% of optimals on FanDuel. Walker, Tatum, Time Lord, and Fournier all north of 40%. I got Smart north of 40% on DK. Jason Tatum, would you rather have Jason Tatum or Kevin Durant today? It's a tricky question.
Warren Buffett once said, Josh, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. Of course, relating to the stock market. But
yes,
I think what you're representing right now with your Boston take is a very, very apt example of how you can have success going in the opposite direction when everybody is scared shitless that this team, or any player for that matter, Anthony Davis from a few days ago, right? A number of other examples when they are just not guys that you want to go anywhere near. Now, did you say Kevin Durant or Jason Tatum?
Yes.
It's Jason Tatum for me. And it's not that close, because if Jason Tatum starts having that game, there's nobody else that can take it away. Like, there's no one else. He shot miserably, okay? And he's done that before. He has shot absolutely miserably. 9 for 32 through his first 2 games, 2 for 7 from 3. It's been ugly. The peripherals have not looked good. There are a number of reasons that I could look at Jason Tatum and say I don't want to roster him tonight. But what I do know is that they need to win this game. Are they going to win the series? No, but he's not looking at it that way. Neither, Brad Stevens isn't looking at it that way. I think if this game does stay close, and maybe it doesn't, I can't predict that. Tatum plays 40 plus minutes easy. Wouldn't be surprised if he attempts 35 shots in this game. That's something that I'm here for. I have to be.
Yeah. The real big question for Boston will be Kemba Walker's health. He is questionable today. I assume he's playing. If somebody's questionable in the playoffs, I'm assuming they're playing until they're not. I don't know what else to do there. But if he's limited, I think that opens up more for Tatum. I think it opens up more for Smart. It could potentially bring someone like Peyton Pritchard into play as a value option, or Aaron Nesmith, one of the two. I'm willing to take the beating here. They grade out too well for me. The matchup, when it's correct, is just too much for me to pass up. The problem is, on the surface, I don't ever look at this. I would never make a change for it. I just think Brooklyn beats the living tar out of them again.
Do you?
I don't know how they stop. I don't think they can stop them. I really don't.
They cannot stop them. The only way they can stay competitive, and this is where things become interesting, is if they score enough points to stay competitive, right? Of course, John Madden reference, stupid, right? But I mean, the only way they do it is on offense. They're not going to slow them down defensively. And yes, chat, we are well aware that Kevin Durant is a better player than Jason Tatum. Yeah. That forget about all of that. That's not what we're talking about. It's one day, just today, given the circumstances and given the fact that, as you mentioned, Kemba Walker, his status is still up in the air. Jason Tatum has that ceiling without James Harden and Kyrie Irving. So yes, Kevin Durant's a better player. Jason Tatum doesn't play on the same team as Kyrie Irving and James Harden. He's got Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart and Evan Fournier. Like,
Yeah.
I'll take my chances. It's ugly, and you're right. It sucks, but I'll take some chances on Jason Tatum today for sure.
Final question here for Boston. What do we do with the Robert Williams, Tristan Thompson minutes? Because Robert Williams looking like another fantastic option. Here are the centers on FanDuel for today. Are you ready?
Yeah, please hit me.
This is a blast. Clint Capella, 8,300. Then we're automatically all the way down to $5,400 Robert Williams, Taj at 5K, Tristan Thompson at 5K, Zubac at 4,600, Nerlens Noel at 4,500, and I guess Dwight Powell at 3,900. That's the center crop for today.
Yeah, that's heinous.
Robert Williams could play 18 minutes and still be the best center.
Yep. How much is Thompson?
5K on FanDuel, 4,900 on DraftKings.
5K on FanDuel, 4,900 on DraftKings. And Robert Williams is $5,200 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
And 54 on FanDuel.
Yeah.
The per minute upside there is just so big that I can't ignore it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
He dropped 43 in 23 minutes against Brooklyn in game 1.
I'm going to assume he doesn't get 10 stocks again.
Well, I'm not assuming he gets any stocks at all. What I am assuming is that he on the season is a 1.3 fantasy point per minute player, which is really good.
Yeah, that's another piece of this where I just don't have a single idea what to do. Like, they're going to split 24 minutes. The good news is Tristan Thompson is not going to be that guy. Like, he's a 5 to 10%er no matter what we're doing here. But if Robert Williams gets 22, 23, 24 minutes, he's probably the most essential center on the slate.
Yep, you're right. All right, let's wrap Boston up with this. And what's going on, Brian? Always coming in with the aloha, just the friendly guy. Then I'm assuming he lives in Hawaii. Otherwise, it'd be weird.
Would it?
Well, it's every day. I picture him like waking up, the sun is rising, warm, sunny Hawaii, and he just pops in the chat.
Rural Idaho.
That's your guess?
Yeah.
Really?
No.
Okay. Tell me
Hawaii.
parts of Idaho that aren't rural. I'm just kidding. There are parts. I can't
even tell you parts of Idaho.
Coeur d'Alene, man. Place looks beautiful. That's where I want to go.
Boise.
Yeah, there you go. Boise, Idaho. Sure. That's a good one. It's beautiful out there. My buddy just got back from Yellowstone. He was there for 2 weeks. Wyoming, Idaho, Montana. Dude, kidding me. Yellowstone's coming back in a couple months, maybe 1 month.
I was supposed to be there for a wedding this year, or last year, rather. Sorry.
It
got moved to this year. But yeah.
It's a great show.
But yeah, we were supposed to do a wedding there, and I was just like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And kill people. It'll be great. Yeah, COVID shut it down.
That sucks. I wouldn't think it would out there. If Kemba, first of all, I'm assuming he has a left knee medial bone bruise. Do you have Kemba in?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. If he plays, and just round out quickly the rest of Boston, what you do with them if Kemba's active.
If Kemba's active, there is no rest of Boston. Play Smart, Walker, Tatum, Williams, Fournier. If you get to like the tiniest bit of Tristan Thompson, I think it's fine. I'm not rolling the dice on Jabari Parker, Neesmith, or Peyton Pritchard.
Okay. Let's close it out, Josh. We got one game to go here. Before we do, it's only right. We hit on the Hall of Fame segment. Shout out all of our friends at Awesemo, rocking that avatar each and every day, making things happen. This is one of my favorite parts of the show because we get to brag for you guys, and that's always an enjoyable part of my day. Dog Pound, $1,000 at Awesemo Hall of Fame. Funny story here, Josh. He DMs me. He's like, hey, Lafayette, I never got put up there, and I was really looking forward to that, right? So, yeah, man, well, just shoot me the link, and I'll get it up there. And I just assumed that it was one day where we didn't have a ton of them. We just didn't do it. Well, he spelled Awesemo Hall of Fame wrong, so he just, like, tweeted it into the ether, and we never saw it. So I was like, all right, mention the right Hall of Fame, which he did. John Starks, pretty cool name, by the way. And here we are, $1,000 up top. He also took 6th place as well. You want to get up here. You want to win a free month of Awesemo Plus. That's $100 value. Everything on the site that I talked about earlier, go to awesemo.com/avatar. Follow the directions. Use that avatar on whatever site you're playing. If you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, Tweet your win at Awesemo Hall of Fame, Awesemo HOF, and win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Or if you just have a win that you're proud of, that you think deserves to be up here, we'll show that off as well. So happy to do that. Happy to see all of you guys up here. Here you go. Rob winning with the 10K up top, first place. Awesemo Hall of Fame took down a 4-point play on DK. Thanks, Awesemo. Yo, that's a tough contest to take down. 20 max, big, large field.
One of the more difficult contests to win.
Yep, no question about it. Peter Hanley. Oh, that's weird. Here he is again. Keep up the great work. Just a few from this week. Need a big one. No, you don't. I mean, I love to see it. But he
sent us 4 of them last night.
7,500, 2,000. He just keeps crushing, man. 4,000, 3,000. Congrats, Peter, once again. You love to see this stuff. You love to see the Awesemo avatar up top. Go to awesemo.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Awesemo Hall of Fame and include Josh and myself in them as well. Makes it easier. And we like to see when you guys are pulling down big wins. Get that free month of Awesemo. And more importantly, right, this is what you care about. Get your name up here. Have us brag for you. It's always fun. We enjoy it. You enjoy it. And we close this one out with the LA Clippers, the Dallas Mavericks. I'll toss this over to you. Clippers suck, Josh.
Yeah, they do. But here's the problem. DraftKings sucks at pricing people. Paul George is 8,100 on DraftKings. Kawhi Leonard is 8,500 on DraftKings. By the way, Kawhi is 10K on FanDuel, which is hilarious. George and Kawhi are both at 40% ownership. They should be. It's perfectly warranted. If you think the Clippers can keep this game competitive, it's happening on the backs of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They are unquestionably the top plays on DK today. Don't overthink it. It just looks great. On FanDuel, George is 8,800. Love him just as much as I do on DK. On FanDuel, though, Kawhi Leonard for 10K is just a hair overpriced.
Yeah, that's a crazy price point. Gary says I haven't gotten my free month from 2 days ago. We have a lot of people that we give out free months to. Like if you look at the Awesemo Hall of Fame handle, there's a lot of them coming in because it could be the quarter arcade. It doesn't matter. Like we give out a lot of free months based on this because we have a lot of people winning with the Awesemo avatar. I didn't expect it to be this much, but we'll get to you. It's not an instant process. We got to have someone manually do all of that. So as long as you followed the directions, as long as you actually met all the requirements, you will get your free month. And join that premium Slack chat when you guys do sign up, and check out office hours where we have all the pros answering your questions, helping you become a better player.
I think that we need, this is an on-air production meeting. We need to create some sort of form on the website where someone could add their tweet to it and it'll just automatically sort of like get that information in one spot.
That's a good idea. Like put it in a queue almost.
Yeah. Like, here's your tweet link. This is my Twitter handle. This is my Awesemo handle or whatever. And it just immediately generates an email that goes to somebody to like our support box or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like the idea of that because then it just makes it easier. You can go straight through them. You get in line.
Yeah.
I like that. Streamline.
Make that happen. I'm not going to do that.
Streamline it. Yeah. I like it. Last game, it's funny because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were both egregiously underpriced on DraftKings.
Yeah.
And I had some reservations about playing them in the same lineup, at least in a lot of those lineups, just because there were a lot of... What's up?
I'll tell you after the show. Okay.
Just because
I can't say this joke on the show. Gotcha. I really can't.
Okay. There were a lot of other really good players on that slate. So, of course, I had some George and Kawhi Leonard. But I was a little bit worried that both of them were going to be able to get there, even at those prices. And they did both get there, Josh. They both played big minutes, and they both still lost. Of course, they're on the same team. So are you willing on this slate? And another reason, too, was they were both insanely popular on that slate, 1 and 2 in ownership, respectively. Are you cool going back to George and Kawhi Leonard with a ton of frequency today on DraftKings and having a ton of them in the same lineup as well?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what else you do. They're not priced correctly.
Yeah,
to get it's 16.6. Like even if you just say I need 6x for these guys, that's 100 fantasy points between the two of them. That's not crazy to me if they're playing 40 minutes apiece.
You're right. Yeah.
They're not priced the way that they should be. So play as much Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on DraftKings as you would like. To me, that's fine. The questions that come in to me now are, what in the hell is wrong with Serge Ibaka? Because if Serge Ibaka can't play like 24 or 28 minutes during the playoffs, it doesn't really matter what's going on for the Clippers. They're not going to win an NBA title. Does Marcus Morris get more minutes? Does Ivica Zubac get more minutes? who wins the minutes bonanza between Reggie Jackson, Rondo, Pat Beverly, and potentially now Terrence Mann. This is the toughest team to project. Being down 2-0, the game starts at 9:30, so you don't have as much information. How do you set this Clippers team up when we don't even know what the starting lineup is going to be?
Yeah, that's kind of a concern. We've had a lot of experience with Serge Ibaka being out this year, but I don't know. How many minutes would he play anyway, even if he was active?
Well, it's not so much the active part of it for me for the Clippers, but for them to succeed, like, I think he's got to be playing 20 plus minutes. He played 6 in their last game
and 13 before that. Yeah,
that's what I mean. I don't care about him from a fantasy perspective, but like the trickle down effects for what the Clippers are matter. If Serge Ibaka, like, they don't have any ability to go small with like a stretch type big if he's not around. Like they don't have that same ceiling any longer.
For sure.
What do you like? Reggie Jackson's 5K on FanDuel, pretty easy to get away from. But Rondo's 4,700. So like, is Beverly the best option on FanDuel? Beverly's 3,300 on DraftKings. Does he still get a start? Do they start Rondo? Well, Rondo's already 4,600. So there's not a ton of value in that price tag. You have to assume he gets like 28 minutes to pay that tag off. I find the Clippers really difficult to roster today outside of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
I agree. I will say this much, though. I'm always willing to at least entertain the idea of getting to Rajon Rondo because unlike Patrick Beverly, Rajon Rondo does have the ability to have those games where he just kind of stuffs the stat sheet. And you know, I don't even have the numbers right in front of me, but I do know that Rondo, even at this stage of his career, he can give you, and again, I talk about this so much in the playoffs because there's not a lot of good value. Could Rajon Rondo give you 35 in 20 minutes? Yeah, he absolutely could. And while he hasn't been a 1 fantasy point per minute guy this year, whereas in other years he has, we've seen Rondo put up some pretty decent games. Now, he's not the same player, but at the same time, I'd still rather. So would you rather have him at 4,600 on DraftKings or Beverly all the way down there at 3,300? That's where the difference comes in because Bev's almost minimum salary.
Well, I think it depends who's starting. I don't have any interest in Rondo if he doesn't start.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
whereas I think you can justify it for Beverly. I think you can justify Reggie Jackson because he's 3,900, but Rondo at 46, I think you need him in the starting lineup to feel comfortable.
What do you think the starting lineup will be? The last game, just as a reminder, it was Pat Bev, it was Paul George, it was Kawhi Leonard, it was Marcus Morris, and Ivica Zubac.
I think that Rondo is in the starting lineup over Patrick Beverly.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
if you're asking me what I think they should really be doing, I would expect Serge Ibaka to be getting more time, but I don't think that is feasible. So I think they have to change the starting lineup. And spoiler alert, it's not going to be Paul George and Kawhi coming out of it.
No, I can't imagine it would be. If it is, dude, if that is the case, though, and Rondo starts, it could have more of a trickle-down effect, too, because does it affect Reggie Jackson's minutes and he doesn't play 30 plus off the bench now? I think that's also very possible.
I don't know. I have no idea what to do with those minutes because they could play Reggie Jackson less like they did in game 1. They unearthed Terrence Mann this last time. Terrence Mann played 15 minutes after essentially not playing in game 1. Maybe they throw Terrence Mann at it. That could also be another scenario here. So I don't mind Reggie Jackson at 3,900, even if he only gets to like 24 minutes.
I don't either. But I actually think if Rondo starts, it could hurt Reggie Jackson more than Patrick Beverly starting. Maybe there is merit to just taking some shots on some of these guards and hope not in the same lineup, of course, but kind of sprinkling them in and hoping that, you know, one of them has that Cameron Johnson or Bryn Forbes type of game because the minutes, there are going to be minutes. It's just where do those minutes go? It's not that there aren't minutes. We just don't know who's going to get them.
Right. Oh yeah. 100%. They have too many different like type dudes at basically the same prices in the same positions. And that's really scary when you're coming off of a 2-0, like if they're up 2-0, then you maintain the status quo. They gotta shake something up. Otherwise, they're gonna go down 3-0, and we're gonna start talking in the next show about where we expect one of Kawhi Leonard or Paul George to play next year, because it's not gonna be Los Angeles.
Yeah, very much so. And if we keep going here, this is gonna bleed straight into tomorrow's show. So let's wrap it up. It's been fun. This is a fun show, man.
Nothing like saying that we were gonna get out of here at the 45-minute mark today.
Yeah, it's truly an exercise in futility. I don't even know why we bother. But hit that thumbs up at least. We got almost 500 people watching a morning show on a 3-game NBA postseason slate. 129, at least to 150. I think 200 is more than achievable, Josh. That would be less. That would still be a less than 50% ratio. So, let's just make it happen. All right. Oh, and hey,
I'm mad that it hasn't happened already. I've been trying to let you handle it, but it doesn't appear that you're doing a very good job.
While you're at it, follow Josh at Josh Engleman and myself at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D, Awesemo at Awesemo_com. Let's close it out. Luka Doncic, just an absolute boss. This guy crushes the Clippers.
Yeah.
He really does.
He loves it, I think.
Look,
we're talking about a guy that's coming over and has been playing with grown men since he was 16 years old. He is not at all worried about that paper champion bullshit the Clippers are trying to spew. He doesn't have that in him. He's worked too hard against legitimate men as a child. He's not getting bogged down with fear of facing the Clippers. He doesn't care at all.
He really doesn't. My most one of my most viral tweets ever was when Doncic, I wish I could find it. It was in that last game, right, where they beat the Clippers.
Yeah.
And oh man, I wish I could find it. I guess it doesn't matter at this point, but
I never see it. You're muted.
Why would you mute me? What did I do? I don't even tweet that much.
I don't need all that political nonsense.
I literally never talk about politics, and you know that. It was, I don't know. I got 6,000 retweets. It was the one where I said Doncic in that last game scored more points than Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, and whoever else was out there combined. That was how bad they were in that game. And they have played well from a fantasy standpoint, the Clippers, but Luka Doncic has owned this Clippers team in the postseason. And it's just the way it is, man. So at that price point, you go back to him today with a lot of urgency.
Yeah, I love him a ton on FanDuel at 10.5. I like him a little bit at 11K on DraftKings, but I think he's properly owned at 24%. 11K is just a lot. You don't have a lot of opportunities to pay down elsewhere, so it does scare me a little bit. I think we should talk about the best play on the slate on DraftKings.
Please enlighten me.
What up, Maxi Kleber? 3,700 on DK, projected for 33% ownership. He is the number one contender for today's slate. There's not a lot of places you can find sub 4K value in 33, 34, 35 minutes a game. So I'm going right back to Maxi as my key value piece here today.
All right. Anybody else here you want to talk about for Dallas?
Yeah, Kristaps Porzingis, for some strange reason, is 7,500 still on FanDuel. To me, he's the unquestioned or he is a unquestioned top, upper tier value play because he does have a ceiling still. And that's what I'm looking for in a GPP. I think he's massively underowned. And then Dorian Finney-Smith at 4,400 on FanDuel becomes today's version of every other value play I've mentioned for the past 4 days. He's the Royce O'Neal of today, I guess. He's projected for 27% ownership. I'd be more likely to have double that. That's just the spot I want to go. He's going to play 36 minutes. He's not a great per minute fantasy guy, but that's where I'm buying my minutes again today. So cue chat.
All right. And you know what? It wasn't the Clippers the Mavericks didn't beat them in that series, right? It was the Nuggets that beat them. It wasn't the Mavs.
Yeah, but they gave them everything and they weren't helped. That was Porzingis went down. There was nothing left for Dallas. And Luka had them dangerously close, too.
He also had that game-winning 3 in the one game. Yeah.
Yeah.
The tweet was Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Lou Williams, and Marcus Morris combined for fewer points than Jamal Murray in that game. That was
did you look it up at that service that you paid for all those retweets?
Yeah, that's it. I don't care about any of that shit anymore, man. It's not worth it. I stopped paying for that a long time ago.
So you pay for that blue check mark.
No, as a matter of fact, it was given to me. If you pay for followers and retweets and stuff like that, you got bigger problems in life, Josh. That's all.
I don't know, man. It's so lucrative.
But it's not. it's like if you pay for followers, I guess it is until you go down and you look and no one ever likes or retweets anything they say, right?
True.
So I guess in terms of like paying for retweets, sure. But anybody that has any common sense at all, that has any idea of how Twitter works, it's not hard to figure out who's buying that shit. And even if you considered it, you have to think someone will find out. We work in a very shrewd industry with people that are, many that have nothing better to do than have time on their hands to internet sleuth. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So you'll get caught. Not worth it.
You will. Well, yeah. I hope you covered your tracks.
All of my accounts are everyone that follows me. It's just like East Asia and Russia accounts. None of them have any English in their profile.
I mean, how many burners do you have that's like Laffy _A, Laffy _B, Laffy _C? Come on now.
Any of that, bro.
They make themselves so easily.
Anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here for the day?
Tim Hardaway Jr., 5,500 on DraftKings. He's picking up a bunch of ownership, second most owned guy on DK. To me, that makes sense. I don't think you go to anybody else from Dallas. I think you can only really look at that Porzingis, Doncic, DFS, Hardaway, Kleber group of 5.
All right. Yo, head on over to the MLB strategy show. It's happening right now. It's Terry. It's Gundacker. Fun show, man. They're doing everything they can to get you ready for today's slate. NHL strategy show. After that, you got the tip-off. You got the MLB deeper dive. And then NBA deeper dive live before lock to wrap things up. The big guns coming out late at night, Josh. That's how we do it around here. Thanks for hanging out as always, guys. Enjoy the weekend if you're not going to be with us tonight. Good luck. Win some money. We'll catch you back here. And have a great Memorial Day. Josh, you see that up there? Memorial Day. You know what that stands for?
Yeah, man, I do.
Yeah, I bet you don't care. We'll see you back here soon.